this workshop is going to revolve around what are the basic skills to like start into debating. So don't think of this workshop to be so basic that things that you already know. I guarantee you that there are things that you will find which haven't been discussed earlier. But the point remains that the basic skills to have to develop that debate mindset to look at certain debates other than just looking at them said critically. I think there is certain amount of like nuanced understanding that I'll try to explain. So towards the middle of the workshop, I'll be expecting certain amount of nuanced explanation from myself, and I expect certain response from you guys, because unless and until I don't get like a direct response, I don't think that this workshop is going to be like pretty successful in itself. So before that, let's start off this workshop. Firstly, I think some of you people have been earlier as well. I recently did a workshop on what motion reading is and a basic case prep session. But yeah, I like so we will still be doing what motion reading is and why is it so necessary to learn it precisely and not just have a like an overall idea of what it looks like. Because in a lot of debates, it's like almost the deciding factor when you know that what's the difference between THW motion and a THBT motion. I think like that plays a very crucial role as soon as you get like near to debates where there's a neck to neck competition. So let's start with motion reading. Just a sec. Right. So first of all, the starting part of the session will be about there are basically three kinds of motions, right? There's analysis motions, policy motion, and actor motion. Analysis motion will be like this house believes that, this house supports, this house opposes, this house regrets, this house prefers world X over world Y. Policy motion will be basically on the idea of this house will do X, this house will do Y, and this house will implement this policy, and this house will undertake this action or that action. The unique difference between THW and THVT is something that I'll explain later, but like always remember to view a motion in a different perspective. Like viewing every motion in a different perspective is the objective of this session, right? It's not that all these motions are always going to be the same. To a certain extent, I would agree to this idea that the major burdens of these motions like will interflow into each other, which means that the major burdens will overlap. That in both THW and THVT motion, you will have to support one thing and oppose one thing, but the inherent burdens are pretty distinct, which means that there are certain motions which, if named THBT motions, cannot happen in a world if the government or if the first speaker in this debate does not have the power to alter what the status quo looks like. I will explain to how it works out later on, but like let's understand why is it necessary. Note, I hope some of you are like adjudicators as well in this session. So as adjudicators, this is something that you need to know pre-hand, which means that you don't have to expect the teams to tell you that you shouldn't expect the teams to tell you that what the burden is. This is something that you should be knowing already by itself, because to a certain extent, only then will you start judging them on that metric, correct? A lot of teams wrongly identify their burdens to become like to get high scores, or at least to become a better adjudicator for the sake of becoming better, is something that you need to understand what the default burdens are and what they at least have to prove to win that debate. Thirdly is your actor motion. It's basically named as th, like this house as X could be any identity. It could be like a feminist movement, it could be an individual, it could be a scientist, doctor, politician, actor, anything. Like it could be around anything. Like once I remember a debate, it was like Arnold in it. So right. So the most important point to remember when reading burdens is never to feel helpless about the fact that look, this motion always feels, look, to a certain extent, motions which are, look, there are no good motions that are always one-sided, which means I won't defend the idea that there are bad motions. Some adjudicators will always put you up to bad motions which are mostly one-sided, but remember, most of the motions are not one-sided. The point becomes is that in a debate such as this house believes that our government should legalize drugs, is a debate that you cannot have on government if you merely think that this is a debate about what is the effect of legalization of drugs upon society. It becomes problematic because the status quo does not have the financial infrastructure or the physical infrastructure to cater to the needs of individuals or the repercussions that arise when you legalize drugs. So this motion by default as a government house will seem to you like it's impossible for you to win. But note, only in these circumstances will you realize that this is a THW motion, wherein in the first speaker, you have the ability to change how the status quo looks like, that you take up the power of the of the authority of the body that is going to implement this policy, which will, like, how do I say, manifest into in different cultures. Like in different manners. I'll explain how does this model look like and how is it going to help you. Thirdly, like, if adjudicators know the burden and understand how to apply them, it's always going to help them in feedback and help the scores jump and things along the similar lines. Right. Next. So firstly, with analysis motion, right? It's mostly THBT, like this house believes that, THS, and this house opposes. Oh yeah, and before everything, don't worry about this thing. I think like you should be taking notes of what I say, because not everything that I will say is in the chat, is on the screen. Secondly, don't worry about the slide. I think I will be giving DDC the slide to like put up wherever this video goes, or if not, then at least on the DevSoc group itself. So it's not a deal. It's not a big deal. Secondly, so in an analysis motion, your immediate burden is to assess the truth of the motion from perspective of the debater. If you are the government side of the debate, you just merely have to tell me that what's being debated, is it true or is it not true? Which means that in debates such as this house believes that gay pride parades do more harm than good, from government, you need to just merely assert, like not assert, okay, that's a bad word. You have to merely analyze it to me that is gay pride parade in itself doing some benefit or is it doing some harm? And on opposition, you have to prove to me that is it doing some harm or is it doing some good? The unique distinction that I'm talking to you about will arise in a world wherein you have to debate motions on this house regrets. I'll explain where this house opposes and this house regrets are two distinct debates, and there are two distinct burdens on side government in the first place. But before that, in debates such as simple this house supports and this house opposes motion, so in policy debate, there is some kind of, look, on the first speaker, there is an expectation of what is called a mechanization of debate. Correct. This mechanization means that you need to tell me how are you going to undertake this debate, how are you going to undertake this policy, and what is the mechanism that you will follow. So a lot of THBT and THW debates these days, like adjudicators don't really give two shits about how it like it differs. So a lot of core adjudicators make a THW debate and the THBT debate almost on the similar lines without really caring that THW makes a difference. So do not hesitate, even if it's a THBT motion, of going ahead and giving out a model, because without altering the status quo, if that debate is impossible, just do it. Don't even think twice about it. But most importantly, remember to give mechanizations. Like if this house opposes Narendra Modi, you don't just have to say that, look, Narendra Modi is good, Narendra Modi is bad. You also have to tell me what is the mechanization of the same. What do I mean by that? Mechanization of the same means declaration of a metric. So here's where it becomes a bit tricky. So whenever you are debating a certain topic, you always determine by its metric. If I tell you, okay, determine what is good. Is it an apple is an apple good or is a pineapple good? So how do you compare between an apple and a pineapple if there is no unifying idea between the two same? Which means that me as an individual who prefers a more juicy fruit will think that pineapple is the fruit that I prefer, which means that the metric for me to determine what's the better out of the two, I choose juiciness as the metric of the same. Usually in this debate, the mechanization forms what the mechanization includes. What do you choose as a metric of defending something or somebody, or opposing something or somebody? So in a debate wherein you say that this house supports or this house opposes Narendra Modi, you need to provide to me a metric of why you are using it, which means that as I like on the side of government, I can take up my metric to be economy, I could take up my metric to be communal relations, it could be foreign policy, it could be anything. But the additional burden that comes along with it to saying that, look, I choose economics to be the metric if from side government we are able to prove to you that Narendra Modi has done way more harm to economics than any other prime minister or any other person that we have expected from somebody from Bharatiya Janata Party to do. Or Narendra Modi has unfulfilled his promises that he put up when he was in like running for elections, or he has failed us economically to a situation where this country is unable to revive, and things along the same lines, yada yada yada. On an economics basis, we think that Narendra Modi has been a failure. So I say that look, economics is something which is I'm going to debate about. But the second part of this debate has to be, why are you choosing economics over communal relations? Because if in a secondary debate, okay, assume it's okay, wait, okay, I can't talk about British parliamentary, but yeah. So a lot of other individuals on side, look, assuming that side on opposition, this is a debate, this is a similar hypothetical debate. Opposition says that look, sure, you think that Narendra Modi has fucked up your economy and it's something that you do not support, but we think what's more important is communal relations, and we think that to a certain extent Narendra Modi has helped us and to create and foster a stronger communal relations within country. I'm not saying this is true, but what I'm saying is that opposition party will choose, like the opposition will always choose a different metric to defend the same person or to defend the same policy. Now, your job is to defend your metric as well, which means you say that sure, communal relation is something which we think may have may have improved over the period of time, but in the larger run, if the economics is already in shambles, both of these what do you call it, both of these religion or both of these communities will not be able to prosper, because both of these communities do not have sufficient money in their own pockets to live a better life. This is the reason why my metric as economics overpowers your metric as communal relations, because economics hampers their everyday condition far more than what communal relations do. So the conclusion of my entire explanation is that there are two things whenever you're putting up a mechanism for a debate. Firstly is to tell you that look, there exists some amount of metric that we are going to utilize to judge this debate, and secondly, or to like argue this debate, and secondly, why that metric is justified over whatever metric that opposition is choosing. So far, any questions? If you have, like, just open your mic and ask me, don't worry about it, or chat, your call. Oh, wait, just one thing. Am I going too fast? I just need one like response. Is like, am I going too fast? I hope like I'm on pace. I'm not like running away without explaining things a lot in depth. Guys, somebody.
No, sir, it's fine.
So the next thing that we need to look towards is a this house regrets motion. Look, in this house opposes motion, there are two different motions. It could be this house regrets Narendra Modi, and this house opposes Narendra Modi. The difference between these two debates is going to arise in this manner. Because note quickly on the second point in this house regrets motion, I write that the burden is twofold. Firstly, imagining the world in which it didn't exist, and secondly, along with it, why was it bad? Which means the second part of this equation, that describing why is it bad, is something that you're already going to do in a this house opposes motion. But this additional burden that you have in a this house regrets debate is to imagine a world in which Narendra Modi wasn't elected in 2014 elections. What would the world then look like? Do you think that there was a probability of a better opposition to take up the reins of the country and create a better world, to create a better country for its people? So now the debate will not just be stagnant upon the idea of did Narendra Modi like fail you or did Narendra Modi support you, but like did like make you proud. But like the debate shifts to, during 2014, do you think like it was a good world? Like, was Narendra Modi the best alternative or was he not? If Rahul Gandhi or Congress party would have come into power, do you think there would have been better policy changes? And then you argue this as well in a this house regrets debate. Does this become clear? I like there is certain amount of like disconnection between these two debates. People don't understand. I need to make this very clear. Somebody, anybody. Was this clear, guys?
It's
Please tell.
clear, sir. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's clear.
Right. So if we are in a motion of this house regrets World War II and this house regrets the fall of Berlin Wall, you also have to will end up debating that in a world wherein Berlin Wall didn't exist, do you think that there would have been an infusion of the two sides of Germany as efficient as it is now? the better part of this debate becomes that you always have a retrospective account in nature, which means account in hand, which means that you have an evidence to say that look, since that act has failed, you have already witnessed its downside, which means you have already seen that certain leader or certain policy that you supported, that this motion is talking about, has already failed, and use those same ideas to support your opt case. But on government, it does become a bit tricky because you also have to justify an alternative way and create an imaginary world wherein with the existence of Berlin Wall, how would Germany look like today? Without the existence of World War II, how would the world look like today? Do you think there would be like equal geopolitical power expansion as it is in the current status quo, or do you think it would have been worse? Do you think the polarization in hands of certain countries would have been far more if World War II wouldn't have existed? So these are the kinds of things that we'll talk about from government in the second debate. But yeah, cool. So the most important part of this House regrets debate is that you do not argue a third option, which means if it's the debate that this House regrets Narendra Modi, and from government, you are almost arguing that if Narendra Modi wouldn't have been elected in 2014 elections, we think that Congress would have taken up a better policy approach towards creating a more inclusive India. But this is a valid line of argumentation. But what's invalid is when you say we assume that if Mulayam Singh Yadav would have become the Prime Minister of India in 2014 had he run the election, we think that it would have been a better world. I think the distinction between the two are pretty clear. You do not create a case which did not exist. You do not create a case which is a third object. You do not create a third alternative, because in 2014 elections it was far clear that there were only two alternatives. Arguing Samajwadi Party as in 2014 elections while regretting Narendra Modi is an invalid line of argumentation, because this wasn't something which was true. Secondly, this wasn't something which was a viable truth in that time, which means it was not possible for like according to the political conditions within country, that like Samajwadi Party would have run for the central elections in of itself. Similarly, there is another debate which says that this House prefers a world of internet over a world of no internet. This is a debate which talks about this House prefers X over Y. You do not compare a world the only comparison that you have to do from Gov is to say that in a world where an internet exists, such as the status quo, we think it's a far greater world that in which state like internet wouldn't exist. Opposition will say that in the state we think that in a world where an internet wouldn't have existed, it would have been a far greater and more peaceful place than as the status quo looks like, where an internet exists. Correct? These are the two argumentations that you'll run from Gov and Op. But from none of the sides can you run this idea that look, if internet didn't exist, right, what would exist was Neuralink. Neuralink is basically what connects the internet to your brains. It's not physical, it's metaphysical to a certain extent. Yeah, it's like a technologically integrated internet. So you cannot argue that look, what would have existed was Neuralink. That's an invalid line of argumentation, because you're not supposed to compare a third party argument, a third party object within that debate, right? So the only thing that you need to confine yourself is to the basic binary comparisons between the two things. Are we clear with analysis motion? Should I move forward? Like just type a yes on chat. I'm cool with it. Like you don't have to like always do that. Hello? Yeah, please, please. I think your voice is a bit muffled. Could you just like speak closer to the mic?
Yes, so I was asking in a debate which is this House regrets, can a proposition, in a motion where it says that the PM has failed in his job, can I say that, okay, I have to say more about what that alternative word would look like instead of saying, stressing on how he has failed in economy, and instead say how the opposition party, if it had come to power, how it would have, brought up the economy or something. Is that correct, sir?
Right. So both these things, criticizing the immediate, how do I say, regretting Narendra Modi, and also like hand in hand arguing, had the opposition come into power, what would the world look like, is something that you need to do simultaneously. You have to make those arguments in comparison. You have to argue like this. in comparison, as to what the status quo looks like, we think that the kind of political guidance that Rahul Gandhi has, we think that the amount of amount of objectively better policies that Rahul Gandhi would have made would have benefited India on a larger scale, because in the status quo we see that Narendra Modi has brought about policies such as demonetization, which on comparative, in a world wherein Rahul Gandhi would have been the PM, it wouldn't have been possible, because Rahul Gandhi does not take his decisions on his own and does not act in a whimsical manner. And as you have seen, the demonetization was more of an individual whimsical activity. We think that it wouldn't have existed, and it would have been a far greater world to live in. Does this argument make sense to your answer?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So remember, always argue in comparative, explaining both the things side by side. You cannot give up one for another. If you just argue that, look, Narendra Modi was bad, Narendra Modi didn't do good, and it's like we regret him, that's fine. But in a debate wherein the opposition will realize that there is an additional burden that government isn't fulfilling, it's far easier for you to lose out on debate without realizing than otherwise. Right? Okay. Let's move to another one. Does someone else has a question? Cool. Policy motions. So policy motions inherently ask you to provide you a model, which means by the virtue of this House W debate, like this House would debate, you need to provide to me a mechanization or a policy which will carry out that debate. Look, one of the basic problems or one of the myths that people think is that, look, since a lot of governments haven't been able to derive any policy or create any solid outcome to legalization of drugs, how am I capable enough to create a policy or to create a model within 20 minutes to debate upon it? Look, you're not expected to provide an extensively detailed or nuanced policy. What's expected of you is to provide to provide a legitimate enough policy which can be debated in itself, which means that it's not about you saying that, look, we're going to create certain amount of nuanced systems of how drug is going to be tested and how every individual who will now consume drug will already be under surveillance of knowing that the government will know that they are using drugs and all that jazz. You don't have to do it. You just have to simply state that, like, as you see in the model formation part of the slide, where I say that you just have to say that government will set up monitored camps for individuals who voluntarily want to use drugs. Secondly, government will create outlets, government sponsored outlets for drugs, wherein government will regulate the sale of drugs. Secondly, all price and production of drugs will be controlled by government, which means that since it's such a huge public, like, it would lead to public crisis if the drug price is left unregulated. So therefore, we think that this is something that government should handle, and we will do so in our model. And fourthly, if we will provide free rehabilitation camps for people to recover from addiction, because we think that since government has given them addiction, we think that we are obliged to take away that, like, to provide the service to leave that addiction for free as well. So things along the similar line, creating a very simple model. Do not press yourself a lot for it. It's an entirely different. Oh fuck! The meeting will end in 10 minutes. Okay. Cool. Wait. So for an entirely new, it's an entirely new debate. If I had to prove to you that, if I had to explain to you what does model look like and how to make model, I'll definitely take a different session for it, because it will take like around 40 minutes to explain how it works out in very specific motions. But in general, remember that this is how you'll do. Just try to say that most of the things that you're going to argue from government side is somehow going to be accumulated in your model. Firstly, create arguments and then go to models. Don't do otherwise. That first minute that you're arguing how to create a perfect model and then you're deriving arguments out of it. Don't do that. Keep your model creation for the last 2 to 3 minutes, wherein you're just trying to figure out whatever your arguments are, they fit into your model, and they do not hinder the flow of your case. Cool. Right. So one of the also argumentations that I wanted you to understand is a lot of debates which have THBT won't happen if the government is not given the required amount of authority to do it. As I've said earlier, in India you cannot say that you will legalize drugs. So we say that sure, it's a THW debate. Whatever problem that exists in India regarding drugs, we'll solve that through our own policy, provide a model, do that way, and start a debate. So now when these kinds of things happen, model brings the debate to a common playing field, which means that now the debate lies in a fair world, which means that the debate will be a matter of choice. Do individuals who opt into drug system or who opt into drug usage, are they making the choice of their own, or is it a socially implicated act? Is it something that people are pressing him into? Is it a peer forced act? What are the repercussions on mental health, irrespective of existence of rehabilitation camps? Do you really think that every individual who will utilize drugs will always realize that he's engaging in a like socially and physically harmful activity? What are the repercussions of it? Thirdly, things are on the same lines that is it the state's right to allow individuals to get addicted? This could use as a same logical extension of why government also allows the sale of drug and allows the sale of alcohol and tobacco, because those are also like addictive substances. Do you think that the degree of addiction should also be taken into consideration when the government is deciding whether to legalize something or not? Or you could also argue, look, is addiction truly bad if an individual is making an informed choice? Like, since an individual is the means to an end to its own body, do you really think that governments do have a right to engage in that and provide and to tell them that uh, that the like it's problematic and you shouldn't do it, right? So yeah, next. Okay, do you have any questions regarding the last slide? Just to say. Cool. Oh yeah, just one more thing. Look, whenever it's a THW debate, nobody can tell you that the government won't have enough money, or the government won't have enough political power, or government won't be able to pass this policy from parliament, or things along the same bullshitty lines. These are not the things that you're ever going to debate in a like in an APD. That look, if it's especially it's a THW debate motion, that there is not enough like money on part of Indian government to put in it, because Indian government is already engaged in pulling the economy off from post-COVID world. Like, these are not the kinds of debate where like this. These are not the kinds of argumentation that are supposed to be run. It has to be run on a principal policy argumentation. Is this policy good or bad? I'll explain where these kinds of debates take place. You don't have to put India as the house. Cool. Secondly, yeah, is somebody asking something?
Yes, so I was asking, we had debated on this motion where we said single parents should be allowed to raise their kids in prisons. And then it was a policy motion, and we said we will, bring up counselors and stuff to look after how they're being brought up in prisons and stuff. And we were opposed by saying that, enough funds would not be available. So till what extent is, the funds thing not opposable?
Right. Oh, I think that's really good question, because sure, when you're making a model, remember to not make the model utopian or extremely radical in sense. I think from the government side to say that you'll create counselor system and bring in psychologists and psychiatrists to look after them. I think that's a good enough argument to make, and I don't think that this is something that should be refuted by saying there is a lack of funds. But most importantly, never to make it in this way that now there's the kids who are now going, or the babies who are now going to growing up now who will grow up in a prison, will now grow up in a perfectly utopian world wherein every other facilities, things such as a creche or things such as every other thing that's available in the normal world will be provided to them. We'll provide extremely good kind of teachers, extremely educated teachers to teach them. We'll have a psychiatrist almost every other corner to look after every other problem that they have. It's fair from government for you to say that we'll schedule 2 weeks or like once in 2 weeks a psychiatric visit to make sure that they have a stable mental condition. But just to make sure, like, it's a question of judgment wherein the model that you're making does not sound too utopian or does not sound too extreme. It has to be reasonable. And if this is how do I say, counted by opposition that saying there's not enough funds, I think like at best, if it's a good adjudicator, he'll put it off, because that's not a good enough argument for them to make, because as a THW motion, you have the right to make that choice. And not specifically, like, even if it's a THBT motion, that since raising children within prison in the status quo with the available facilities is not possible. That means status quo cannot accommodate this policy by default. So therefore the motion gives you the power to create a status quo which is like cohesive to that policy. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes, sir, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so before we rush off to actor motions, can we just switch our Zoom call and then come to the same link once again? I think it will be far easier. Abhinav, what do you say?
Yeah.
Good, perfect.
That's okay.